Okay, now today we will going to discuss about the last topic of this particular chapter, excretion, is that is artificial kidney and then excretion system in plants. Now, like in the previous class, we have discussed about the structure of nephron and the working of nephron. That means we have studied all about the formation of urine processes. In the previous class, we have discussed about all three steps of urine formation, like how urine forms in the nephron and how it excrete out from nephron and released into the ureter, then to the urinary bladder, and then how it releases through urethra. Now, this is the time we need to discuss ki if in case of working of kidney becomes non-functional or any impairment happens in the kidney, that means our urine formation system will definitely going to be affected, or you can say the blood purification system will going to be affected due to any reason. Basically, in case of impairment of kidney, or you can say nephron, which is the structural and functional unit of kidney where exactly the urine formation takes place. Now, if anything happens to this part, nephron, or any dysfunctioning takes place in the system of kidney or in the system of nephron, then definitely the formation of urine process, formation of urine is affected. That means you can say the purification process of blood is affected. Now, what the doctors should do primarily in such cases, if kidney does not play its important role, that is the process of removal of metabolic waste from blood, then what may happen if the metabolic waste will not going to be removed. This purification of blood means removal of metabolic waste. This removal of metabolic waste, if not done properly, then what may happen in our blood? The metabolic waste will going to be accumulated in the blood. This metabolic waste, if removal of metabolic waste affected, then what may happen? The metabolic waste will going to be accumulate in blood, and that metabolic waste, the major metabolic waste in we human being, is actually urea, ammonia, creatinine. These are the major metabolic waste that is going to be accumulated in the blood. Then how it is going to, or how it will going to affect our metabolic system? These are the metabolic waste. If it accumulate in the blood, then it may reaches up to different organs, and there also it can accumulate and can interfere with the metabolic reaction. That means which can interfere with the normal metabolic reaction in other organs and organ system. For example, if creatinine gets accumulated in the brain as well, or as well in somewhere else, then it will going to be affected in their metabolic processes also. So that is why it is very important to remove these metabolic waste from blood by carrying out the process of formation of urine, through which all these metabolic waste excrete out. If it is not being done properly, like few percentage of kidney if going to be affected, that means the whole kidney if affected, then the only cure is left, that is transplantation of kidney. For example, if the whole kidney, in case if whole kidney gets improper or non-functional, then doctor has to follow only one particular treatment, that is the transplantation of kidney. This transplantation of kidney is done between a donor and the recipient person. This donor and recipient person, firstly they should have the matching should be done in between their organs, in between their blood, in between their blood groups. So there are a lot of matching needs to be done, that is blood group should be matched in between donor and recipient patient, then the blood group should be matched, the tissue or the muscular cell should also be matches, should be done. So there are a lot of trouble or difficulties in this particular treatment, that is transplantation of kidney. But if the few percentage of kidney is affected, few percent of kidney is affected, matlab, like for example, if we talk about say for example, if 10% kidney is affected or 12% or 20% kidney is affected, then in that case patient should followed by a treatment that is known as artificial kidney treatment, or you can say hemodialysis. So doctor first follow that hemodialysis process rather than to follow directly with the transplantation process. So we will going to discuss in this topic is about how this hemodialysis or how the artificial kidney works. Artificial kidney or the process is known as hemodialysis. Artificial kidney means it is a kidney prepared, man-made. That means it is a man-made kidney, you can say. This is the external device or a machine which implanted outside the patient's body. That means this is the device in which the blood of patient is transferred, where it gets purified, and then after purification the blood is returned back to the patient's blood or to the patient's body. Now that is why this type of machine or a device is known as artificial kidney. That means the artificial kidney is, you can say, the man-made kidney or machine or a device in which the patient's blood is transferred, where it gets purified. Now what does it mean by purified is, that is the removal of metabolic waste from patient's blood is done in this machine, and after purification the blood return back to patient body. Okay. So this is about the definition of this artificial kidney system. Now what do you mean by this hemodialysis? Hemo word is used for blood, and the dialysis means this is the process through which the blood gets purified. Here the removal of metabolic waste done using a fluid called as dialyzing fluid. So this is known as hemodialysis. Here the dialysis of blood is being done. Dialysis of blood matlab the purification of blood, that means the removal of metabolic waste from the blood is being done by using a specialized fluid. The characters of this fluid we will going to discuss later on. So by using this dialyzing fluid we are removing the metabolic waste from this from the patient's blood, and this is known as hemodialysis. Now how this hemodialysis process is done, let's discuss. For example, this is the patient's hand and this is his or her radial artery, and this is the radial vein. Now the radial artery and the radial vein here I have drawn. Why? Because if you remember, we have discussed in the previous lecture that the kidney inside which whatever the blood is entering inside the kidney, it is entering through renal artery. That means the blood vessel artery, when it enters into the kidney, is known as renal artery. It is carrying an oxygenated blood. That means the pure oxygenated blood which is enter into the kidney. But that oxygenated blood contains all types of metabolic waste. So those oxygenated blood having those metabolic waste, when it enters into the kidney and when it enters into the nephron through afferent arteriole, there inside the nephron, when it passes through, when that blood crosses through all the steps, that is through glomerulus, then to the tubules part, and when the urine formation takes place inside that, then after the whatever blood which is returned back to the efferent arteriole. So that efferent arteriole, when it comes out of the kidney, that comes out in the form of renal vein. That means the vein is having that deoxygenated blood, but it do not contain any metabolic waste. That means if artery is carrying the blood having metabolic waste, and the blood after removal of metabolic waste from nephron, when it returns back or when released out of the kidney, it is going into the renal vein. That means the vein is carrying deoxygenated blood with removed or with lack of metabolic waste. So that's why here also, in this process also, we will going to collect the blood of patient first from its artery only, because artery part having oxygenated blood, but it do contain the blood with metabolic waste. So you can say here the radial artery is having oxygenated blood but with metabolic waste, while the radial vein will have the deoxygenated blood, do not have metabolic waste. So here also we are collecting blood from patient's radial artery. So here this is a device, a chamber. This is dialyzing chamber, inside which actually the removal of metabolic waste is taken place from blood. Here the tube-like structure forms. Now here, through syringes or tubes, the tubes basically they are carrying this blood from radial artery. That means this blood is transferring to this tubes. These tubes present inside a chamber known as dialyzing chamber. This is known as a dialyzing chamber. These coiled, highly coiled tube-like structures known as cellophane tubes. These are known as cellophane tube, made up of a particular membrane, a particular type of material which is selectively permeable in nature. These tubes are selectively permeable in nature. They are made up of cellophane membrane. Then inside this chamber we have the fluid filled this fluid which has been filled is known as, this is dialyzing fluid. This is known as dialyzing fluid. Now, what is the main characteristic feature of this dialyzing fluid? This dialyzing fluid, since has been prepared by us only, by we human beings only, and this has been prepared by taking consideration in that that it should be kept isotonic to our own blood plasma. So this dialyzing fluid is isotonic to human blood plasma. Why it has been kept as isotonic? So that the movement of metabolic waste substance can easily occur from its high concentration region to its low concentration region. That means it is similar to that of blood plasma, where the concentration is same to that of blood plasma. Now, so that in the blood plasma, which does not have any metabolic waste, so that is why whenever blood enters into these tubes, the metabolic waste will easily transfer to the dialyzing fluid. Now, in this chamber, there is another sites, or you can say there is a place from where we are inducing the entry or transferring of new or a fresh dialyzing fluid. Here we have kept a chamber from where we are transferring continuously the freshly prepared dialyzing fluid, and from here we are collecting the used dialyzing fluid. See, now how this dialysing process is being done? See, basically here we are collecting blood from the radial artery. From here the blood is passes on or transferred to these tubes. This blood, when it transferred throughout this tubes, what may happen here? Because we have discussed that these cellophane tubes are selectively permeable in nature. Now, what does it mean? Selectively permeable means the nature of membrane which passes on or permit or which allows only selected molecule. Here we have prepared these tube by keeping in mind that it should be permeable mainly only to the metabolic waste, that is our metabolic waste like urea, creatinine, ammonia. So these membrane has been kept permeable only to those metabolic waste, while the other important substances like glucose, amino acid, it is not transfer to the dialyzing fluid. So from here we have collected the blood from the radial artery of patient, and whenever the blood is crosses through these tube, now what is happening? All the metabolic waste present in the blood will going to transfer or move from its higher concentration to its lower concentration region to the dialyzing fluid. Fine. So through the diffusion process only, or you can say through the normal passive transport mechanism only, the metabolic waste is transferring into the dialyzing fluid, and in this manner this blood from where the metabolic waste is being removed into the dialyzing fluid. So here that is why we continuously keeping the freshly prepared dialyzing fluid is being continuously adding up, and the used dialyzing fluid is collecting continuously collecting, so that the dialyzing fluid do not disturb, the concentration of dialyzing fluid will not going to disturb by the addition of metabolic waste from the blood. So this is the main device or the process through which we are removing the metabolic waste from patient's blood whose kidney is not properly working. Now what happened after this? This blood is then returned back to the radial vein of patient, not to the radial artery, because I have already explained that since in the kidney also the renal artery is carrying the oxygenated blood having metabolic waste, but the blood after purification in the kidney is move out through renal vein, and that renal vein, although it carries the deoxygenated blood, but it do not have metabolic waste, and that blood will then goes to heart for oxygenation to the lungs later on, and then again that oxygenated blood return back to the artery, and that artery is again transferring that blood to different body system which do not have metabolic waste. So in this manner the cycle goes on in the process of removal of metabolic waste by the process of formation of urine. So this is the process of hemodialysis, through which what we are doing is we are removing the metabolic waste from the blood of patient by crossing through these coiled tubes known as cellophane tube, which is selectively permeable in nature, which permits only the metabolic waste to remove out of the blood. Then after, since this dialyzing fluid also we have kept isotonic to the blood plasma, so that the movement of substances can be easily done from tubes or from blood to that fluid. Then again, third condition is we are continuously transferring the freshly prepared dialyzing fluid, and continuously we are collecting the used dialyzing fluid, so that the concentration of dialyzing fluid will not going to get disturbed. And in this manner, after crossing through the tubes, this blood now become purified. That means it do not have those much metabolic waste, and that blood will then going to be transferred to the radial vein to the patient blood. Now that patient will can survive for few months or few years also by this particular dialysis. One dialysis can be done in within 3 months. It depend upon the condition of a human patient, or depend upon the condition of their kidney, that what percentage of kidney is not working. So how many times the dialysis should be done, it depends on the patient's kidney working only. So this is all about the hemodialysis. Now we will going to discuss about how excretion done in plants, or what are the excretory waste present in the plants. Now since we all know that likewise animal or we human beings, we are excreting out the waste substances or the extra material, extra waste form from our body towards outside. In the same manner, plants do also excrete out their waste form. Now plants are basically having the tissue grid of organization. They don't have well organized organ or organ system to excrete out the waste form, like human being have kidney as an excretory organ, or like other animals do have different other organs. But plants excrete out their waste material through their tissues or through their cells only, because their cells or tissue are in direct contact with the environment. Now what processes does plants perform specially? Mainly the plants perform processes performed by plants are, if we to talk about the most important process done by plant is photosynthesis, that is process of making food, the preparation of food. Through photosynthesis, plants release out the byproduct. As we all know what is photosynthesis, the reaction itself shows that carbon dioxide when combines with water, it forms glucose molecule, but along with it we have another product, for example this. Right? This is the overall reaction of photosynthesis. Now what is happening, like we can see these are the main reactant or substrate used up in this process, and this is the main product, that is glucose, which is the main product in the process of photosynthesis. But this oxygen and the water is the byproduct, or you can say the waste product in this process, because this oxygen is not exactly, it is not the main product of plant which releases in the process of photosynthesis. So that is why this oxygen is considered as byproduct in this process. So here in the process of photosynthesis, oxygen gas and the excess amount of water is produced as a excretory waste product, right? Then another process if we talk about, that is respiration. Since plant is also living being, it is also a living being only like we animal or we human being have. So plants do also respire. So plants respire throughout day and night, although we say that plants do photosynthesis only during daytime. That means during daytime plants absorb more and more carbon dioxide and it release more and more oxygen. But what is happening during daytime? The respiration is also taking place continuously. During respiration, what the plants is doing is, it is CO2 is giving out and oxygen is taking inside. Fine. So in respiration, the CO2 is giving out and oxygen is inside. But in photosynthesis, what is happening? See, the CO2 is taking in and oxygen is giving out. Now, what is the difference between these two pathways? During daytime, what happened? Both the process is occurring continuously. But during daytime, if plant is releasing out CO2 through respiration, this CO2 plants again utilized in the process of photosynthesis. So we can say during daytime, outside the plant or in surrounding environment of the plant, the amount of CO2 seems to be lower as compared to night. Although it is not like that it is not respiring during daytime. Plant is respiring continuously during day and night. But only thing is that during daytime, another extra process is going on by the plant, that is photosynthesis. So through photosynthesis, the plant is absorbing carbon dioxide and releasing oxygen. So here, the oxygen which is releasing out in the process of photosynthesis, this oxygen is considered as a byproduct by the plant, but CO2 which is it respiring out through respiration. So during respiration, the CO2 is the excretory waste product. Fine. Now what other process the plant do is, that is transpiration. Transpiration, as we all know, this is the loss of water in the form of vapor. So this is extra amount of water which is being losing by the plants in the form of vapor through stomata or stomatal pore, that is known as transpiration. So through transpiration, the gaseous form of water is releasing out, that is also the extra amount of water which plants are excreting out, and that is transpiration process. That means here the excretory waste is water. So through these different processes, plants are excreting out the waste substances, but there are certain more other processes also through which plants are excreting out the various other substances also. Likewise, for example, the products produced by plants as their waste but useful for consumers. That means the plants, whatever the plants are producing different products due to different metabolic processes going on in their cell. So they release out certain other waste product also, except these product like which we have discussed is that products are also useful for we consumer, like those are the products maybe rubber, that is paper, gum, resins, tannins, raphids, that is the fruit part. So there are different things. Now that is why on that basis, these are the products which the plants releasing out. These are the waste product of plant, but this is our main, this is the product which we human being consume, or this is useful for us. Rubber we use to make different things, like paper we are also using, gum is the material we are used for making for sticking the substances. Likewise resin, the tannin also helping the process of tanning of leather. Raphids are the another different part of fruit in few of the plant species. Now on this basis we have classified the excretory waste form according to their state. That means according to their state, whether they are present in the liquid state or they are present in the solid form or then the gaseous form. So we have three types of waste products produced by the plant. this is classified on the basis of their state. That is, if we talk about liquid state, the gaseous state, and the solid state. That means the liquid waste, gaseous waste, and the solid waste. Now this liquid waste, this include different types of oils, water. Oils means the oil which we are extracting from certain oil germinating seeds like eucalyptus oil, sunflower oil, coconut oil, groundnut oil. So there are so many type of oil, castor oil. So these are the oil which plants are excreting out from their seed only. From their seed we are extracting this oil. This is the waste form of plant, but this is useful for we consumer. So in that case, the waste which is present in the liquid state, these are example of it is oils and water. Like water we have discussed, it release out through the process of transpiration as well as through the process of photosynthesis also. Now what are the gaseous waste? The gaseous waste we have discussed CO2 and oxygen only. CO2 through respiration and oxygen through the process of photosynthesis is the gaseous waste form. Similarly, the solid waste form, we consider it as resin, tannin, mainly the raphids. This raphid which is the component of fruit. Now few plant species generally on the surface of their leaves as well as on inside their fruit, certain chemical compounds like calcium oxalate crystals, that means certain compound calcium oxalate, they appear in the form of solid crystal like structure inside the fruit, or in some plant they are present on the surface of the leaves also. That is known as raphids. So whenever the fruit gets separate out, this raphid, which is the excretory waste form of those particular plant in the form of calcium oxalate crystal, which is also excrete out. Example of this raphids which obtained in the fruit is, it was yam plant. This was the yam basically. This that particular plant, yam plant, where the fruit which obtained having this raphid part. So this is all about the solid waste, liquid waste, and the gaseous state of waste form produced in the plant, and through different processes also, which are the important processes found in the plant, we are getting different excretory waste form also. So in this chapter we have discussed about the removal of metabolic waste and the formation of urine in human being, as well as we have discussed about the excretory substances produced by plant. Now from the next lecture we will going to start with a very new topic. Thank you.